All right, happy Friday. Welcome to our bi-weekly Eastside Rap meeting where we discuss issues related to homelessness on the east side of Santa Barbara. And so this is our, I think it's bi-monthly check-in with PATH about their CUP. And so for the majority of our meeting, we'll be passing it over to Liz and Odin to present. But I did just want to share a couple of dates coming up. We always have things on the calendar. First, our next Eastside Rap meeting on the 20th. I'm sure Liz may mention this later, but the usual PATH cleanup on the 21st. And then on the 30th, we're doing an Eastside neighborhood walk. So we're going to meet at Sprouts. And then the goal will be to walk then under the freeway and come to the sort of Cacique corridor. So we encourage you to join us if you're able. That's Monday the 30th at 12:30. So I think with that, I will turn it over to Liz and Odin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Woohoo! Okay. PowerPoint. Okay, do you see the presentation?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Okay, so updates since the last time we presented. We also, since the last presentation here, we also presented to the Planning Commission for our every 2 years, we present on the conditional use permit. So we had that last month and presented there. And some general updates we wanted to show just our kind of final numbers from last year and what our outcomes were. Last year, we had 430 total people served, 34 of those with an increased income, and 32 housing placements. We also wanted to point out, as we've been kind of tracking data over the last several years, some of the changes in the population that is being served. And so specifically, like the number of people who are designated as chronically homeless has greatly increased. So just like the needs therefore then increase. If somebody's experiencing homelessness longer, it's going to be more difficult for them to get out of homelessness and permanently housed for so many different reasons. But just even from 2017 to 2023, that number increasing from 18% to 61% is pretty huge. And with that, also the number of people who are self-reporting that they have mental health needs. And so this is self-reported, therefore we know that this is very much underreported as well. And that jump, again, 34% of people we served in 2017 reported that they had mental health needs, as opposed to 53% last year in 2023. So really high needs individuals is who is being served by PATH. So far this year, year to date, our outreach outcomes, our outreach team of Odin has already served 52 people. Of those 52 people, 8 people have moved into transitional housing and 4 people have moved into permanent housing. So we're very happy with those outcomes. And this early into the year, especially, we're just closing out our first quarter. So that's really incredible. Yay, Odin, thank you for your amazing work. Rapid rehousing, we have served 16 households so far. Permanent supportive housing, we've already served 37 households. And then even through our interim housing, we have already been able to have 10 people move into permanent housing so far this year, with serving 98 unique individuals. So a lot of people moving around and a lot of people getting into more permanent housing situations and off of the streets. updates to some of what we've done in response to community concerns that have been brought to us. We created and distributed the resource guide for our neighbors that you can see here. And we've started meeting with our neighbors as well and implementing monthly meetings, not only with our neighbors, but also as part of our collaborative efforts with the police department. Just so we can be constantly checking in on kind of how things are going as we're implementing new processes, what's being effective, what's not being effective, where can we shift. And then we're also collaborating with the police department on the illegal activity that we see happening on Cacique, out front, across the street, and just kind of in the general, our general neighborhood. We've also been collaborating with the city to address trash and litter trends that have been brought forward. And then we also respond in real time as issues are brought to us or concerns are brought to us. Odin and other team members are able to go out immediately and help address those concerns. Linked to, oh, sorry, I thought, oh, that's looking forward. Never mind. I'll pass it. Oops. Okay. We'll talk more about some of the initiatives that we've implemented kind of related to the community concerns that have been brought forward to us and our responses to those concerns. And then I'll pass it over to Odin to just share a little bit about outreach and action.
Thank you so much, Liz. Happy to share. We had a massive win this last week with the help and collaboration of CityNet and Good Samaritans Dignity Moves. We managed to get a mainstay of Cacique Street off the street and into shelter. So just a little bit of a story about this individual that I wanted to share. From 2018 to 2023, Lois was alone, bouncing between service providers and sleeping on the sidewalks of Cacique Street. She's very well known to not only the service providers, but to the community members in general. Everyone knew who Lois was. And, it took a long time coming of, consistency and effort, not only on our parts, but on her parts as well, to really, get to where she is now. And thanks to the collaboration of not only Path, but the CityNet and Dignity Move, she's now, on the road to sobriety and in a safe and comfortable space to work on not only that, but her physical health and eventually waiting to reunite with her family down the line. And so she's in very, very good hands from when I first met her a year ago. So just wanted to share this massive win to you all today, and give a huge shout outs to our collaborators. So kudos to you guys, 100%. Looking forward, Liz already shared what happened last year. So now, going over our goals for this fiscal year, our goals for the grant were projected to serve 60 unsheltered individuals, and in the first 3 months, we've already served 52 individuals year to date. Of those, a quarter should be moving into positive exits, and I'm very happy to say we are 2% away from reaching that goal. So safe to say we'll be meeting our goals by the end of the year, if not by the end of next week. So yeah, very excited, and excited to pass this thing off to Liz for the rest of our initiatives.
Not only will we meet our goals, but we will far exceed them. So
100%.
Yeah, super happy with the addition of our outreach program and the success that we've seen with that. Some of the initiatives kind of some of them linked back to some of the concerns that have been brought forward to us by our neighbors. The community cleanup, we continue to do our monthly community cleanups that we have always done. Our next one coming up on October 21st. You may remember a couple of months ago, we started a partnership with Habitat for Humanities for those cleanups as well. And we'll be continuing that partnership on a bi-monthly basis for for some specific cleanup dates every other month with them. We also launched with the city of Santa Barbara. Well, it's the city of Santa Barbara's program. We're helping them launch it. We're kind of testing it out, a cash for trash program. And we had great success. Our first cash for trash event, which was, shoot, I don't remember the date. It was in the middle of September. Do you remember, Odin, what the date was of Cash for Trash? Okay. It was in September. But we had more than 17 people come and help out, and so many bags. One of our interim housing guests hopped on his bike, and I think just while I was out there, I saw him bring in like 6 large trash bags full of trash on the one of the corners over here, kind of by the post office. There's what I believe used to be an encampment that has been semi-abandoned, but there's always a pile of stuff that has continued to be reported, but no cleanup has happened. And so they that day helped do a lot of the cleanup of that area, as well as just the neighborhood in general. And by coming out and doing the cash for trash, they were also, everyone received a gift card, and we're super excited to go to McDonald's and saw people coming back with ice cream cones that they were really happy about. So really excited to continue the cash for trash program with the city as well. And huge thank you and shout out to the city for launching that program and working with us on the launch of it. We're also in the midst of our annual participant survey. And so this is a survey that goes to anyone who has participated in one of our programs. It's an opportunity for them to give feedback so that we can make improvements. It's part of the PATH statewide strategic planning process, so that we really get guidance from our participants as we make plans for improvement moving forward as an organization. We're also working to increase our interim housing programming. This is somewhat related to just wanting to get people off of the sidewalks out front, and just providing them additional activities to do inside within the interim housing facility, as well as just to improve the services provided. We're always wanting to provide the richest services we can. So we're working to increase our programming that happens on site at the interim housing facility. We've already implemented weekly free haircuts that take place there. That has been great to watch people transform just from receiving their haircut and having the ability to feel good about themselves. We're also implementing some seasonal decorating. We've got some fall decorations up. We're working to hopefully partner with Casa de la Raza on doing some Dia de los Muertos activities, and having an altar on site here, and some other activities around that. We're kind of related to that, going to be creating a memorial rock garden with our guests here as an opportunity for them to remember loved ones who they have lost. We're reaching out to get some AA and NA classes taking place on site. We're also working to see how we may be able to get drug and alcohol counseling on site here. While we don't require people to be sober, we definitely encourage it and want to make that as easy as possible for any of our guests here to be able to access those services. So looking at getting that on site, as well as resume coaching and some additional employment services on site here. Another initiative is just improving communication. I mentioned starting to have monthly meetings with neighbors and partners, And then we also just want to increase the access to our outreach team. So we created an outreach phone number and email address that's included on that flyer that we've distributed, that goes not only to Odin, but to me, as well as Odin's direct supervisor, so that anytime somebody emails to that email address or calls that phone number, one of us will be able to respond immediately. And with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions that folks might have for us.
I had a quick question. The data that you shared was really great to see, and I'm wondering if that was on the fiscal year, or what was the timeline on that, like July through June?
Yeah, so the first data set we shared was last fiscal year, so July 1st to June 30th of last year. And then the year to date is actually not quite to date. We did July 1st through September 30th.
And great to see the story about Lois.
So I had two quick questions. Well, one question, one request. The request is, can you send a link to that resource page? I would like to get that out to all of our staff, just to kind of increase awareness, and that would be helpful. The question I had was thinking of when I looked at those shifts in percentages. Is some of that due to the fact that as people are assisted, it kind of changes the proportions of people in those other areas, so that as you get people into housing, whether it's temporary or permanent, that and I mean, my own lack of experience is going to show through for this, but as some people who may be more easily assisted kind of get into those, does that change the proportions of those, so that it actually looks like those numbers are increasing, but it still may be the same number of people? It's just that those individuals may be more difficult to assist, as in your story about a 4-year effort to assist this individual that had kind of made Cacique her home, but you know, your persistence paid off. But it could be that a lot of other people you're helping, it doesn't require 4 years of effort to get them in. So that was a question about proportion. Sometimes do those numbers reflect more, not an increase in numbers, but just the fact that group that's harder to help starts becoming a larger proportion of those numbers?
I can't say, for sure what the reasons are. It's a variety of reasons. One thing is that PATH specifically, our method and how we operate is really specifically for higher needs individuals as well. So with the Housing First low barrier harm reduction model, that's the easiest for high needs individuals to access, because they're not required to be participating in programs and things like that, and then meeting them where they're at. So they're actually able to access the supports, and we do that continued relationship building. And if it takes 4 years to get somebody to a point where they can access services, that's what we do. But then, yeah, it's definitely those folks who are easier to house move through the system faster, definitely. But this data is also looking at the aggregate, so the total number, so that all those people are still included in here. It's really just that the people we're serving specifically, that has changed as we've changed, because as when we were Casa de la Raza before we merged in 2015, we didn't have the same operational style. And Casa de la Raza was operating more as like a day center, and they did require sobriety and had the sobriety programs here and things like that. Casa Esperanza, sorry. I'm still thinking about thank you, Natasha. Still thinking about our altar and partnership we're trying to build. Casa Esperanza. So with that shift to, and just the change in how we operate, it has been connected to that shift as well. And I think also, if any other service providers want to jump in, I think that others have seen a similar shift as well. That we're seeing a lot more of the mental health needs as well as the chronic homelessness, and a lot of other people are shifting to this harm reduction, low barrier housing first model as well. I don't know, Al, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, just with the long background with Lois, I've worked with her since 2015 myself when I was at PATH. So, there's definitely been larger transitions. And I'm always so thankful for PATH because, like you said, multiple times, the low barrier, the housing first model that PATH has, if we didn't have PATH around here in Santa Barbara, it would be a lot worse. Because if anyone here is familiar with all the other shelters and agencies, which there's always a place, I feel, for everybody, the level of need for the individuals that PATH works with is the highest level of need, when it comes to mental health, and drug and alcohol backgrounds and everything. So it's the numbers are always going to fluctuate, and everyone's situation is different. But I think, for me, when I talk to my team, I talk about tiers and kind of certain levels of individuals. And a key point that Pat was talking about earlier is the fact that the least amount of time someone is in homelessness, the quicker many times we're able to get them housed. So the longer they're in homelessness, the more difficult it is to get them housed. Being on the street, with the amount of drugs and things going on, the mental health has definitely been an uproar in our community. So that at times makes it more difficult for services to be accepted for many of these individuals. But it's just, is there a specific question that you're looking for, Rich?
No, I was just trying to look at resources available and the increase in need, because if the increase in those more difficult cases is increasing, then there's certainly a greater need to get people on the street working.
And I can say, collaborating, when I was originally at PATH and actually, being the one to represent them on these SB Act meetings, I would say it's about almost 5 years now, 4 to 5 years this has been going on. So since then, these meetings and the connection, I always like to say SB Act has been like the glue, at least the past 5 years that I've been really in this, to put all these resources together that you're talking about, which is correct, the need, right? As the levels of mental health and drugs and alcohol and just the chronic homeless grows, as we see, the need also grows. But coming together, and I've literally, we've been on this call when we talked about a situation in front of PATH, where PATH was there, CityNet was there, we contact behavior wellness, we had PD there, literally for one call. So these conversations come up, and then we literally all come together for this need. And I believe that day, the individual was able to get helped, went to get some support and services, and that was that. So it's definitely growing as we see, but we are also, I feel, growing with coming together as a village to be able to provide the necessary need for these individuals. So, but first off, thank you, PATH, like I said, and all you guys for what you do, because without you guys, there would be more individuals on the street.
And to your point, Rich, thank you for that, Al. And to your point, Rich, as far as the need for resources, just in general, we know that there's a large gap in access to mental health services for anyone. And that need is so prevalent and so evident in people experiencing homelessness as well. And if you think about how difficult it is for us to access mental health services, who are employed, insured, all of these things, then think about somebody who's living on the street or trying to get off of the street and trying to access those mental health services, and how difficult that is going to be. And then also with increasing that need, think about COVID and how difficult that was and how much that affected, again, like our mental health by having to go through that, and then thinking about people experiencing homelessness during that time, and the influx that we saw as we've come out of COVID, the influx that we've seen of that mental health need, again, that huge increase in need for mental health support after COVID. And then again, just comparing like the general population and thinking about any of us, and then comparing that to the homeless population, and that's, you know, expanded significantly with these folks.
So I think the COVID thing correlates directly with chronic homelessness as well, because that was pretty much a year of very little housing opportunity just with everything going on. So automatically over a year, if you're not how it works with chronic homelessness, Rich, is over a year of, you know, consistent homelessness or more than 3 times of homelessnesses within, I think it's a 2-year span, if I'm correct. That automatically for people during COVID literally went from home, you know, unhoused to chronic homeless. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lana.
No, I appreciate it. I was gonna say too, since the pandemic, we've also had a staffing shortage for mental health professions, and not just for homelessness. But I'm gonna share, there's a report that YouthWell did with the Tobes Foundation. But our county is starting to build that back up and get the staffing back, but you've got, you know, increased behavioral health issues because of the pandemic, and then reduced staffing. So it's sort of been a perfect storm. And so this is one of the priority areas for this whole collaborative that SB Act is running, is to try and address specifically the behavioral health piece, because every municipality in South County is feeling the effects of that right now. So we don't have a solution yet, but we're trying to figure out what could be some good goals that we should be setting. Any other questions for Liz and Odin? Well, thank you. We really, really appreciate this. Appreciate the stories. Appreciate you being able to share all the figures as well. It's really helpful just to see what's going on. So, yeah, hopefully some of you all can join at the cleanup on the 21st. We are at 10:30. I did want to just raise an issue because I got an email from a community member about that house on Milpas. It's across from Wells Fargo. I think it's like 100 North Milpas. So I just wanted to raise that and just have a check-in about where that's at with the individual sleeping on the porch.
Yeah, I can jump in. That was actually my second portion of my update with that. So we provide our usual Monday outreach in Milpas, specifically throughout the past couple of weeks. But we have been making additional continued attempts with the individual of concern on Milpas across the street from Wells Fargo to engage with services. It hasn't, you know, right now, this individual has been service resistant. And during the day, we've been able to track this individual at McDonald's and right around that area. So it hasn't just been staying at the property all throughout the day. We try to, you know, work and let them know, you know, let this individual know that, hey, this is something that is being noticed a lot more. It can't continue. You're probably going to be contacted by the city, by PD. You know, we obviously offered shelter. I'm not interested. So it is something that we are very familiar with this individual now. And really at this point, I think it's kind of that, I was talking about another meeting, kind of that tough love where, you know, not only us, we're there to support and be able to offer, services. But I know when the city may have to do cleanups or clearings or, engagements of saying, hey, this isn't, this can't continue, whether it's PD now knowing that, we're doing our part, we're all doing our part together. Whether in the future there's, citations or, additional warnings of like, because the amount of time this has been going on now for almost, I would say, a month or so at least. And between ourselves, the city, PD, and the community, that's how the conversation, has beginning to say, hey, the time is being, taken here. So things will, escalate. And the last thing we want is for you to feel, harassed or, not, getting to the point of PD having to write a ticket or something like that. Well, that's what we don't want, right? But it could get to that point, so the individual hasn't been, disrespectful and rude and everything. So that has been something, but they usually leaves during the day. But the engagement and outreach has been provided additionally, besides just checking in on Mondays. And actually, I'm probably gonna, after this meeting, I'm gonna be driving down Memphis, so I'm gonna go check them out and just say hi. And that's what it's about, really. How I go long term is just I'm gonna go say hi. I'm really gonna check in, say hey, the conversation's still going on. I want to let you know, hey, what can we do? You know what I mean, and just get more familiar and hopefully build that trust to be able to reach out to us and accept services. On Wednesday, we've been providing Spanish outreach with Odin and getting out to the area, so it's always great collaboration. Along with additional support on Cacique. With that, we have had a couple requests in that area, and I'd send an email out to Odin and my team just so that they can connect together and provide that additional support. I know it's been a concern at the end of Cacique, kind of like the little trash area, kind of growing a little bit as far as an encampment. So I have multiple teams, whether it's my surf team, Saul and Seti, to go provide that support, or if it's Christina and Mary or John and Olivia to provide that support for Odin. So the connection and communication has been great from the community along with our collaborative agencies. And like Odin had mentioned and Liz had mentioned, we got a highly vulnerable, female individual that, like I said, I've known now since 2015. I'd seen her a couple days before and she didn't recognize me because I used to have a big old beard, and she was like, Al, that's you? And I'm like, yes, it's me. And she actually been, she was texting me back and forth and messaging me. And so excited to be able to see her off the street. I know her son, and like I said, I know her for years. So big win for the Eastside community, along with Pat, CityNet, and thank, Good Samaritan Dignity Moves to being able to make that happen. So all of us together, along with the city. Along with that, between last meeting and this one, my final updates, we got 2 individuals into our city beds at PATH. So those are all filled up right now. And, it's been a good working couple weeks in the community.
I met a woman last night who was hoping to get into PATH, and John from CityNet had to tell her, no, it's all, we're full up on our beds. So
yeah, it's difficult.
It's good news / bad news.
Yeah, but we'll keep in communication. So once there's we try to figure out some ways. Luckily, like I said, these meetings, county, bring the city, bring Pat, bring, they kind of the glue that brings everyone together. So we usually figure out something. So I'll actually connect with John when he gets here at 11:30 and identify who that individual is and see if we can make something happen.
Thank you, Al. And then just sorry to keep on that house on Milpas, but for Commander Katsapis, at what point does it become a police involvement? Is that because it's private property that they would have to give you an authority letter at this point?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So for us to take action on private property, it requires owner support. So either in the form of an authority letter that allows us to take enforcement action, or through coordination with the owner of the property themselves. So if it's a third-party complaint about somebody on private property, we're limited in our enforcement abilities because we can't take action for trespassing without the assistance of the property owner or their desire for us to do that.
Thank you. I'll communicate that back to the community member.
And we've made several attempts to get a hold of the property owner. Zoning, we have made a lot of attempts and they do not return the phone call. They're aware of the issue. We leave voicemails, but we have not heard anything.
There's a question from Natasha in the chat about whether the property owner needs to be cited. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not going to answer or be the one to answer that.
Commander Katsakis can correct me, but I don't think there's anything that they're violating.
Nothing that would fall in the enforcement authority of law enforcement unless there's some sort of a code section that would be applicable. But as far
On
as
the building
police,
and on the building and safety side, Joe, I don't think there's anything there either. They
We
maintain the
went,
property well.
yes, I went with Emil from building and safety. There was no zoning issues. There was no trash issues. There's nothing for us to cite the property owner on.
Do we know if the property owner wants to rent? Does anyone live there? No one lives there, right? Maybe he wants to rent it out. I bet some people that need a place.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know,
I
maybe
agree
that
with
can
you,
help.
Alan.
Having someone live there, you know what I mean, can help. Like,
Yeah, and Natasha, to answer your, so the individual for public urination, yes, but not the property owner for that purpose. So again, in terms of where we are in enforcement, public urination would have to be observed on site to do that. Here I am, year and a half, I can reference code. So here, well, I'll be better.
Right.
And Landon, I know I'm late because I was on a county meeting. Was there anything that came up in the first half that, because of city staff representation, we weren't able to address?
No, we primarily just heard from Path there.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Any other concerns or updates to share out? Otherwise, we'll close the meeting to community members. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here today. Take care, everyone. Happy weekend.